Politics is not a game, and being good at chess is not a requirement for this class. But thinking strategically, like a chess player, and using the logic of game theory to understand political decision-making is very much at the core of political economy. Welcome to ESPS0015, Political Economy. I am Dr. Roland Kappe. I'm a lecturer in the ESPS department and the School of Public Policy at UCL. This is one of my favorite modules to teach. The reason is that it is very interactive. So in a normal year, we spent a lot of time on the board and sort of in the room doing exercises together. And I will try to transfer as much as possible of these sort of interactive elements into the online class this year. Apart from this module, I usually also teach a class on the welfare state, politics 28, welfare politics, and a large master's module, public policy, economics, and analysis. The videos for which are online as well, if you're interested. My research is in comparative political economy, and I'm interested in stuff like voting and elections and public opinion. You have already found the video clearly, so you're well ahead in terms of the core resources. So you should watch these lecture videos, obviously. I will post these on Mondays. And I look forward to the actual sort of interactions and introductions and getting to know your backgrounds a little bit in the seminars. And those are on Fridays, as you know, and you should please, if possible, attend the group that you have been assigned. All the other information you can find on Moodle, how to sign up for office hours, more details on the assessment, which we'll spend much more time on later, the core readings, exercises, etc. So what is political economy? Sometimes you get definitions that rely on some sort of ideological predisposition, like Marxist political economy. This is not what this class is about. Another topic that we won't be spending too much time on is international political economy, so focusing on trade and international institutions. So it's not these things, but what is it? Well, I've already given you sort of one part of the definition, which is thinking strategically, like a chess player, thinking ahead. Game theory, and this is one of the approaches we'll definitely encounter. So a set of tools, traditionally rational choice approach that used to be more widely applied in economics, or what is sometimes called public choice in economics, applied to sort of political science questions. And we'll definitely use these kind of methods of analyzing political decision making, using game theory, using sort of strategic thinking. The other definition that I'm more partial to maybe is I'm thinking about it as sort of the interaction or interplay between politics, the political sphere, and the economic sphere. So states and markets, how do they interact? What are sort of big questions about how we organize life? How do we redistribute? How do we cope with inequality? How does economic performance affect the political fortunes of governments? So it is both a substantive focus, politics and economics sort of interplay, and a bag of tools, game theory, etc. One of the core sort of things you will encounter here is sort of thinking with theoretical models, using theoretical models to think about the world, to clarify our thinking, to make predictions about what will happen in a given political or economic decision-making type situation. And the sort of models that we'll encounter cover things like the problem of cooperation, prisoner's dilemma, some people have maybe heard, the question of external enforcement and the state, the origins of the state, the tragedy of the commons, decision-making in groups, how do we vote, what kind of voting systems should we use, is there a perfect way to aggregate preferences, different voting methods. And then we'll talk about the so-called spatial model of politics. So all of us are familiar with thinking about sort of politics in a left and right dimension, and we'll formalize that a little bit. And you'll encounter the median voter theorem. And then after reading, we'll talk about sort of inequality and redistribution and models of how redistribution can occur. And we talk about veto player models and economic voting. So quite a wide range of important substantive questions that hopefully we can shine some light on using sort of very clear, very simple theoretical models. And to build these models, we need something that is called game theory, or for the econ people, just theory, formal models, mathematical models of human behavior. And we don't have to dive for everything into sort of the nitty-gritty mathematical detail, but sort of understanding the core intuition behind some key models is really, really important. Why do we do this? Why do we think with models? Well, basically, models give us the opportunity to sort of clarify our thinking, to make sure that we produce sort of clear, logically consistent predictions based on the assumptions that we start with. But of course, thinking with models and building theoretical models that capture some aspect of the real world is in and of itself not enough. We, of course, are an empirical social science, so we need to test our theoretical predictions. We need to test our models using data. And so in the second half predominantly of the course, I will basically try to introduce you to some really basic methods for data analysis, sort of how to think empirically, where to find data, how to use data to test theories. And I think this is a very useful sort of skill set in general. And we, of course, cannot cover everything a data analysis or statistics or causal inference kind of course would cover, but I can guarantee you that you will be able to use some really basic tools quite quickly after the sort of second half of the course. And we will do all this, both the game theoretic models and the data analysis bits, using really hands-on practical exercises in the seminars. And the goal of that, of course, is to enable you to do research in political economy. And to this end, you will we will talk a little bit about sort of how to do a lit review, how to identify sort of a core reading list, how to ask a good question, how to come up with a plausible, sort of credible research design for the question that you're trying to answer. And then you will actually apply all this in your independent research paper that you will write sort of after the module has ended. And this is one of the sort of most fun things for me, to basically watch you guys sort of develop your own sort of theoretical ideas and sort of empirical papers throughout the course of the module, and then sort of finish them up afterwards. And it's a nice opportunity for you to focus on something that you're really genuinely interested in, and it's really nice for me to read these excellent research papers every year. So, in the remaining videos for today's lecture, we will encounter the problem of cooperation, which is perhaps the most fundamental question in all of social science. Basically, the problem of cooperation, or prisoner's dilemma, sort of encapsulates the question of, like, how do we get along? How do we form a society, if you want? If it is individually rational to be bad, to misbehave. And we will, once we have encountered the prisoner's dilemma, the problem of cooperation, I think we will see it everywhere. Well, we will formalize, of course, the prisoner's dilemma, and we will think a little bit about sort of what the predictions of this model are. Then, of course, we have to ask, how do real people play this game? How do people interact when they find themselves in a prisoner's dilemma type situation, in a cooperation problem? And to this end, we will watch a really strange British game show, Golden Balls, from a few years ago. We will then visit soldiers in World War I and learn how cooperation can be sustained even in very difficult circumstances. And finally, we will learn what monkeys can teach us about human behavior.